all our adventures over the years.
Hi, I'm Robert
Over the
Gibbons. Welcome to
centuries.
another edition of When Humanists Attack. Humanists Attack are catchers of wild dogma, delighters in and defenders of all human beings, and we hope to be your place where you can think of yourself not by yourself. Today, we're having our first showcase, and we invited three of our wonderful friends, Jackie Reason, Betty Lee, and Fred Arcaleo. Welcome. Also, co-hosting with me will be Miguel Barrios. Again, I'm Robert Gibbons, humanist poet of When Humanists Attack. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be in your virtual company. Welcome, Jackie. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to read your bio, and then we will give you a chance to share your work, and then we'll have a few questions. How are you doing today, Jackie?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
You look beautiful as always, and I'm so glad to be here with you today. Jackie Reason is a Afro-Caribbean writer raised in the Bronx before it became the Boogie Down Bronx. Reason is a poet, a playwright, a feminist, and a longtime educator. And I'm very well with Jackie's work. She's a wonderful teacher. Her work focuses on stories of survival and resilience. Jackie is in pre-production of her original play, Under the Bridge. Reason curates a monthly storytelling series in Brooklyn and co-edits the Community Writing Project Journal. Jackie loves spending time with her family, traveling, and being an influencer in the lives of her eight grandchildren. Jacqueline Reason essay House Parties is the prize winner, first prize of the 2021 Writing Black Joy Contest. Welcome, Jackie. We're ready for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. I'm going to read tonight the Writing Black Joy winner. I'll just give you a little premise. We submit things all the time and we learn to deal with rejection. And so I had submitted 3 pieces on the same day. I got my rejections back for the first 2 over the course of time. And then the third one came and I saw the email and I said, oh, okay, here's this one. And I read it and I saw the second prize and third prize winner. And I said, I wonder who won first. And then I looked at it again and I was like, oh my God, it's me. So,
Wow.
so I tell that story to encourage people because you just never know. So this piece is written in the voice of an 8-year-old girl, and I'll just give you that as its premise, and then we'll go from there. Funny that when I think of growing up on the Burnside section of the Bronx, New York, I think of my dad. He was more of a mythical figure than a practical person involved in raising me. I lived with Dad's mom and younger siblings in apartment 4E. Our 4th floor windows faced the street, giving us a bird's eye view of a block he never inhabited, but often visited. Daddy was young then, mid-20s, rocking barely buttoned psychedelic shirts with platform shoes under bell bottoms. A small man in stature, but big in charisma and charm. Those early days were simple. My dad was my hero. Sunrise on the block meant awakening to the aroma of just baked Italian bread wafting from the bakery at the bottom of the hill. Every other Saturday morning, the day after payday, I accompanied Mommy down the hill to the markets. My favorite was the butcher shop, where they sold fish on one side and meat on the other. The shop was a flurry of activity, teeming with neighborhood women. The women jockeyed for position, vying for attention from white men in blood-stained aprons, each hoping to score the best cut of meat or the freshest catch of the day. Mommy was a master operator here, showing the ladies how it was done. First, she commanded the attention of the men behind the counter, informing them of her preferences. Once she identified her selections, the men shuffled their feet through sawdust shavings, covering the floors. Then they made loud clanking noises as glistening cleavers chopped off heads and scaling knives flung fish skin through the air like a hailstorm. Though the smell was pungent and roish, it would be worthwhile after Mommy rubbed on her special seasonings. The porgy or grouper would accompany fried offerings of chicken wings, johnny cakes, and sweet plantains. On the way home, we stopped at the number spot, masquerading as a card shop, while the real business went on in the back. Mommy was playing her numbers for the week. She kept market money in her purse, bill money in an envelope, and number money tucked in her bra for safekeeping. On the days Mommy won, she wrapped her winnings in brown paper to assure that she didn't get pickpocketed. More often than not, however, she was taking money out rather than adding money in. We knew this was a problem when the Con Edison bills arrived on bright yellow paper, signaling our lights could soon be cut off. On the days when there was extra money, our final stop was the record shop that smelled of incense and sold blacklight posters. I touched the glistening stalagmite bars of homemade soap while the latest croonings of Curtis Mayfield, Isaac Hayes, or Millie Jackson played on black vinyl. Once we made it up the steep Davidson Hill, Mommy gave me her remaining silver coins to buy candy at the corner store. I ran effortlessly to the end of the block and blew all my money on banana now-laters, penny candy, and bazooka gum. The first time I read the bazooka riddle all by myself, I thought I ruled the world. When I bought gum wrapped in a paper resembling a cigarette and blew the puff of powdered sugar out, mimicking smoke, Mommy asked me if I thought I was grown. By the time I got home, Mommy was in full preparation of the night's house party. Frankie Crocker's baritone narrated the latest happenings on WBLS radio. Above the sounds of hot oil bubbling in black iron skillets were Betty Wright's song of liberation, Mr. Big Stuff, and Frida Payne's lamentation of a marriage failing on its honeymoon, leaving the new bride with only a band of gold. Once mountains of food were cooked, the house spotless, the iron rod was removed from the police lock to hold the door open. One by one, the women from back home arrived carrying musings, cautionary tales, and good cheer, along with contributions of food and drink. I always knew the real party was in that kitchen, among those beautiful, bawdy women. Somewhere near dusk, Daddy arrived, doused in Old Spice cologne, sporting his freshly cut natural with his latest girlfriend slung across his arm. He always introduced me as his daughter, requested some sugar, and leaned over so I could affectionately plant one on his lips. On those days, I knew I was a princess. He and Mommy caroused while his friends trickled in with girlfriends wearing white go-go boots, hot pants, hip huggers, and mini skirts. They accessorized their brown bodies with beads, bangles, teased hair, and frosted lipsticks. These nights were legend. That's the thank you. That is the end of that
Yes.
story. Uh, just one.
Awesome.
I apologize. Let me just finish the end of it. Some of my papers got mixed up.
Okay.
Okay. Nobody talked about working in hospital kitchens, laboring on construction sites, or cleaning hotel rooms. The Mulera, pronounced Malay, was of happenings back home while the men cracked bottles of Johnny Walker Red and the ladies sipped glasses of Puncha Cuba. The house was transformed with young bodies gyrating to music and walls pulsating with laughter. I questioned if somebody had hit the number, but mommy just said we were celebrating our love and pride of surviving the American dream. Eventually, American music tapered off and tones of calypso and reggae seeped in. American girls struggled to keep up with the island girls' winding bodies, but soon figured out how to stay in the mix, bodies unifying to the music. By the wee hours of the morning, the music lowered among the lights. Lamps with colored bulbs were turned on, and some aunt somebody ushered me to bed. I obeyed and then snuck out to hear the soulful sounds of the impressions, the stylistics or the whispers. Couples doing the bop gave way to slow dancing to Billy Paul's sultry rendering of Me and Mrs. Jones. And
Oh,
there, in the midst of it all, was my dad, my true hero.
Wow.
Wow,
Thank you.
nice.
Thank you.
Jackie, it's such a pleasure to have you here. And before my co-host Miguel Barrios introduces the next guest, I'd just like to ask you a question about what do you think? What is your definition of humanism? What is your definition of humanism?
Um, well, I'm not quite sure, Robert. I guess if I were to think of myself as a humanist, it's how I interact with people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Robert and I happened to be in a very strong discussion about a week ago
Yeah.
with someone who wanted to know why I bothered to talk to people on Facebook. And I couldn't think of it then, but it was because someone had explained a crisis and asked for prayer.
Yeah.
And I thought and it was something very serious. And I thought, if I could do that for someone, why would I not? Why would I not give my energy on that level? And whatever she was going through, she made it through, and she came back on, and she thanked everybody. And so for me, that's what being a humanist is: having empathy for other people and giving of myself, my spirit, and my energy.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Ladies and gentlemen, Jackie Reason, poet of our first art show. Thank you, Jackie, for being here. I'll introduce my co-host, Miguel Barrios. Miguel?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Miguel Barrios, and thank you for staying with us tonight and Friday night and in this lovely weather in New York. And well, I have a very special guest tonight. This is our first art show, and her name is Betty Lee, and she's a painter. I met Betty at the Art Students League, and she has wonderful paintings. And we are going to show her our work, her paintings, and we're going to talk with Betty. So welcome, Betty. Welcome
thank you.
to tonight's
Thank you
show.
for inviting me. After I heard Jackie, I'm honored to be with this crowd.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. So I'm going to read what you wrote in your website that I found it uh, very compelling, very touching. You say, my paintings are songs. The colors are instruments making notes. Together, there is a complete artistic entity. If you look at my paintings and imagine sound, you can see music. For so many years, music has been an important part of my life. All kind of music, bluegrass, Americana. Think John Prine, jazz, chants, Max Richter, anything by Daniel Lanois, Olafur Arnalds, and from Iceland. Music transforms day or night. We feel differently depending on the music, sad, lighter, freer, alive. Color is so strong and tells you what that painting is all about. So, so I found it very nice, Betty. Tell us um, a little bit about yourself.
So I was a disc jockey actually in New York and also in Nashville. And that was pretty special because it was anti-country music. It was just music and all kinds of interesting people played. But I started painting many, many years ago. I painted in school and I just love one color next to the other. And that's why I think they are like voices. They have so much to say. And like, I know that if I do a painting that's very light and bright, it's one phase or one thing I'm thinking about, or a lot of them are very, very heavily concentrated with strong colors.
Wonderful. So, how were the beginnings of you as a painter? How was that beginning?
Well, in the beginning, in school, I remember in high school, I remember I did a painting and they sent it to a art show in Japan from American kids. I was so honored, and then I didn't paint for a while, and then I started really. I found a garage that I could use, and then I started really painting. And I went to
Nice.
Cal Arts in
In
California.
California. Oh, nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. Nice.
And
And
in those years, everyone was kind of talking about feminist art and so forth. I was just about the colors, one next to the other.
uh-huh. Very interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. And tell us, how is the process of creation for you? What inspires you besides, because you are talking about music, and tell us, how is this process of creation?
So when I go in, and I have another garage where I paint now, but when I go in there, I usually stretch the canvases myself. And when I stretch them, I imagine what that's going to be, what that's going to carry with it, what voice, what's going to come out of it. It almost tells me what. I used to paint portraits, and I honestly believe that the portrait painted itself. The eyes made themselves. I would just do something, and then all of a sudden it was there. And the same thing now with if I go in the studio, I'll have like something in mind. I'll have a color in mind. And I used to just put it on the canvas and just go. And then I started experimenting with putting two colors together, not mixed, but like yellow and orange, and see how they fold together. And then there's no stopping me. Someone once said,
Nice.
if you have a problem creating, just go into wherever you create for 45 minutes every day. Some days you'll stay 24 hours and some days you'll stay 45 minutes. But once I go in, I got the music, I'm in there. I just love it.
Very nice. And what advice would you give to somebody who is a young painter, a beginner painter? What advice would you give to somebody who is just beginning to paint?
Um, I could ask you the same question because you're so creative. Just one week you have one kind of thing, and then it's so incredible. I think I would just tell anybody, don't forget what you're painting for. Don't worry about a painting. Worry about what that is doing for you and what those colors are doing and what the shapes are doing and what's dominant and what's not. You're in there. You're in that painting as well. Just do what you feel like you want to do. Don't
Nice,
listen to anybody. I mean, we
nice.
have to have teachers, but you have an opinion we all have opinions as well.
Right. Now I'm gonna share the screen to show from your website some of your paintings.
No, you're not.
Great.
No, no, we don't have time.
Oh
No,
no.
no,
No, it's not. It's not about time.
you don't have
If
time.
you share the screen, all of the shots disappear.
Oh, disappear. Oh,
This
I
has
see.
to be coordinated beforehand.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
You,
okay.
if Betty wants to show something behind her, she can show her camera.
Oh, okay,
That's
okay.
fine. If you
Oh,
want
that's
to do
fine.
that, that's
Okay,
fine as well.
Oh, I thought we could make it. Okay.
No, that's okay. I could show what's behind me.
Yeah, that'll work.
I can do that. I'll get up. And this is, is this working if I do this?
Yeah,
So
yeah, that
this
works.
is,
Yeah.
there,
Okay.
that works. So when I started this, I love this color. I mean, obviously. And then all of a sudden I'd put a darker color and see what happened. And then I felt like I
Loving your
needed a
stream.
lighter color. And then I mixed two colors together. And this, believe it or not, is a whole other color. And I look at this painting and it just, my son called it the gates of hell. But it's so strong. And I always
Right.
have it behind me. So
Right,
that's
right.
one. I can show you another one. Wait.
Sure, sure.
I just did this one, and somebody won a prize. They did the ice on the Hudson River.
Mm. Yes.
And I
Very
said, "Do you
nice.
mind if I paint that?" And I did. And if you look, it's all these. There's oranges and greens, and you know, if colors don't like to be next to each other, you know it. So, yeah. So these are two. I could show you more if you want.
Yes, yes. We have. How much time do we have? Like maybe 5 minutes more?
You've got 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, perfect. Yes, we have plenty of time, Betty.
Let me bring this with me.
White, while
Okay.
doing that.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I just did this. I turned a light on in here, so I just did this orange. And
Nice.
it's orange and gold. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, again, it was the colors, and it's deep. It looks like an antique. It looks like it's got years and years. Like it's been sitting somewhere for years and years, maybe in a Buddhist monastery.
Right, right.
So thank you so much for asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So Betty, what do you think is going to be our world after the pandemic? What do you think is going to be all these things that we um, uh, that all things related with Zoom and how we have to keep distancing. How do you see this situation nowadays?
That's a really, really good question. I went to a museum out here near Rhinebeck in Cold Springs, and it's an Italian museum. And when it's a very new museum, and when the pandemic started, there were a lot of artists who had no money. They wanted to paint, but they didn't have studios and so forth. And a group of benefactors put money together. They supported these people, and they made a movie out of it, of how these people taught, what they did, where they painted. A lot of people painted outside. A lot of people painted in their kitchens and their bathrooms, and it showed the art that they did. So I think that if we face what we're looking at and not pretend it's something else, and say exactly what you're saying, this is a pandemic, we're separated from one another. How do we make the best of this? I think that's a really good question. And I think we, especially as artists, I think we can
Right.
make a difference to give people beautiful, meaningful things to look at.
Right, right. And what comes next for you in your painting? What are you thinking to next?
You know, it's funny you say that. I've started using a very thin canvas. You know, I stretch them myself, and I started using a thin canvas, and I started dropping like ink and color on the canvas on the ground, and it's the same feeling, only it's very sheer. It looks very spontaneous. You can see the moment that drop hit the canvas and spread out. So I'm going to play with that a little bit.
Nice, very
Okay.
nice,
I
very
can't
nice,
wait to do it.
very nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I would like to maybe show some of the paintings of here with my cell phone. Let's see if I can make it. I think I
Oh,
can
thank
show
you,
because I
Miguel.
have some. Betty has some very beautiful paintings and
Thank you.
let's see if I can scroll down some of them
Oh,
here.
yeah,
In
that
the
looks good.
camera. Let's see.
It's okay.
Can,
Lieutenant.
can you see them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is another one.
Yeah, I started trying to do that.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
That's 7 feet by 7 feet. That
Wow.
I don't understand why this
Uh-huh.
isn't showing.
In the cell phone. I mean, it's
yeah, thanks for doing that. You can see them, and that's the one that's behind me.
right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
really nice.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so there's another one that I like. I like a lot. That is this portrait.
Oh, right. I call that yellow sky.
The yellow
That's a
sky.
woman who those eyes, she made those eyes. I mean, I started painting and then all of a sudden it just did what it did. Thank you
Right.
so much.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yeah,
I really love this one,
I do.
and
Thank you.
and I like this one too. This other portrait. It
Yeah,
looks like I don't know, like it transported me to like 200 years ago.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
Kind of you wonder what's on her mind there.
right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there is let me see if I find another one quickly. We have just 4 minutes more, right?
Okay.
Yes,
You
okay.
should be
So let me.
showing your paintings, Miguel.
I will someday. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Is a place here called Burger Hill, and I draw. If I go there, it's such a hike, but to see the sun go down, and
Right, right.
I just came back and went boom, boom, boom.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
what about this one?
Well, that was what I did in the beginning, and I still like to do those. Those are the
Hmm.
colors, one next to the other. And a lot of times I would use a knife, or sometimes I would put the paint just right out of the tube on the canvas.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's that's awesome. So I think
Thank you very much.
no, thank you, Betty, for coming and for such a short notice,
Yeah.
and thank you for making it tonight. And I throw the ball to Robert again. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Betty, for being in our company tonight. I just wanted to say, when humanists attack, we don't ascribe to a religion, we ascribe to the human soul. And so we selected 3 awesome artists tonight to showcase for you. Thank you, Jackie Reason, our first guest. Thank you to Betty Lee, our second guest. And our final guest tonight is my dear friend, Fred Arcaleo. I'm going to introduce Fred Arcaleo. He will perform for us, and then we'll ask all 3 artists to come back and we'll have a quick question period for them. I have a few questions for Betty. Fred Arcaleo. Fred Arcaleo's deepest desire in life is to help influence the way the world changes. He has spent over 30 years teaching here in New York City and in other places, and as long on the front lines of struggles, both local and global, in fighting racism and sexism, supporting immigrant workers and combating police brutality and imperialist war.
Wow.
It is these intense experiences that have shaped, informed, and inspired Fred's songwriting. He writes songs and poems that strive to reveal the contradiction in our society between appearance and reality, and spends most of his time channeling his anger over the conditions of life that exist for so many unproductive activities. He's particularly interested in the role of music and the arts can play in raising awareness of societal issues and inspiring people to study and act on the pressing challenges of our time. He lives and works in New York City, and is a daytime high school English, ESL, and creative writing teacher at George Washington High School in Washington Heights. He has 2 CDs to his credit, his awards debuts. He has tons of credits, and I perform with Fred in many of the underground spots and in many of the parks here in New York City, and I'm so glad to have him here with us. Fred Arcaleo is up.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much. It's always weird to hear you people talk about you while you're sitting right there. But it's really, I'm so happy to be here, and I thank everyone that's connected with When Humanists Attack for having me. I love the title, When Humanists Create. So, well, yeah, I guess I get to play a few songs. I'm really excited because I'm working on a project right now of pandemic songs that I wrote in the last year and a half or so. And I'm really there because maybe we've been cooped up a lot during this time. It really feels like a tremendous release. And so I'm in the middle of it right now. I'm listening to mixes. It's a very kind of intimate project in a way, even though the songs are a little loud, more so than my last CD, but it's right now it's 3 instruments, and I'm gonna have a friend of mine sing harmony with me, Shanika Anderson. So it's they're really songs that are trying to address the issues that have burst open during this last year and a half, and so I thought this might be a good one. This was the first song I finished during the pandemic, and I started it actually in 2017. I don't know if you remember, there was basically a fascist rally in Charleston, Virginia, West Virginia, and and it took a lot of people by surprise, and it was literally a fascist rally with people chanting Nazi slogans and killing people, and with torches, just like the Nazis. It was designed to be symbolic of that movement, which ended up killing upwards of 100 million people around the world during the whole course of the rise of the Nazi Party in World War II. It's just an unprecedented time in history. So, I started this song, and like everything, or like many things in my life, it kind of got pushed aside by events. My job, where I teach, and all kinds of things going on in the streets, work, political organizing and such. And when the pandemic hit, I got scared straight, and I realized I got to finish this song. So I finally buckled down and finished it. So you'll hear some references to things that were going on in 2017 and then pushing it into 2020. It's called All That It Takes. Are arrived from hives of lies. The advertisements traumatize. They disguise a prize that's right before our eyes. A cloak of smoke envelops our homes, a kaleidoscope of broken bones. It chokes our hopes and thwarts revolt, so we're told. All that it takes for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. All that it takes for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. The fascist freaks have tossed their sheets. They flood the streets armed to the teeth. Whatever made you think this would be easy? Stand for the flag or you'll be damned, and pander to the master's plan. Loyalty's what they demand, our fealty. All that it takes for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. All that it takes for evil to win is for good people compromises we've despised. The time is nigh to fight an island rise. Those of us who are good people within choose to reduce evil to nothing. Those of us who are good people within choose to reduce evil to nothing. You can reduce evil to nothing. 'Cause I refuse to believe we are nothing. Thank you, guys. This is virtual sounds and real thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks, Jackie, for like a little bit of jitters there. It's Charlottesville, Virginia. So sorry to like get the states and cities mixed up. It's a little, it's you know, it's funny because it seems so long ago. Colin Kaepernick, the wildfires. Remember the wildfires in Arizona? That was like a whole like several months, and it just seems like another world, like a history book or something. And you know, but these things are just part of something that's been building over many years. And you know, I've been doing songs since the 80s, and that'll give you a sense of my age. And you know, they've pretty much always been somehow connected to these upheavals that have been going on for a long time. There's a saying that we have in our philosophy circles that I'm involved in, quantity into quality. So you have this like little quantitative changes that you don't really notice, and suddenly there's this qualitative change, and people are like, wait a minute, how did that happen? And you're like, well, you got some time? Let's tell the story. I am really excited about these songs. This next song, I plan to do 3 songs, my little 15 minutes of fame here. And this next one is my latest song that I finally had to put the writing aside, and because I really want to record these, because time is moving on. There's going to be another upheaval coming soon to a theater near you. So I wanted to see if I could get some of these songs out. And so, but I kept getting a new song, and this one happened while I'm trying to record these other ones. But I just felt it so deeply. It's kind of like what you were saying, Betty, like the colors next to each other. Like there's another song, and then this other song kind of matches that song, and it kind of builds on itself. Almost like, and also like the story that you told in your poem, Jackie, with how people are arriving at the party, and it's like things just keep developing. So this song was inspired, and again, it seems like ancient history, when the rover landed on Mars, right? Which is what, like, when is that, in January or something? It seems like it was years ago, because now they're going to Mars. There's like several trips planned. So anyway, but this, you know, you'll get the idea. It's called Upside Down. All right, let's see if we can do this here. People cheer when the rover lands on Mars like it was heaven sent. It looks so near, but it's so far. Me down here with a year of unpaid rent, trying to figure out how it got this way. Everything's out of place. That damn machine lands on its own 2 feet, while I am lost in space. It's upside down. So they've cleared the latest election. Now the gangs are settling scores. We best beware their false protection. They're gearing up for the next war. Half the countryside self-righteously, the other half grinds its teeth. And I'm left worried about all my friends who still don't have enough to eat. It's upside down. Yeah. I want something to cheer about that's not millions of miles away. I've been working all my life. It's about time I had my say. It's upside down. It's upside down. Billionaires' fortunes gone viral. Their stock market's on a stampede. They don't care if we're in a downward spiral, long as their profits guaranteed. The rich boys always taking all the credit. One thing I know for sure, this whole system's a real pandemic, and we've got to find the cure, 'cause it's upside down. Yo, it's upside down. It's upside down. Sometimes I feel so tired, like I'm just singing to myself. But I know we're running out of time. We got to get ourselves out of this hell. Thank you guys.
Wow, amazing.
I'm still getting used to singing these songs. Because of the pandemic, I haven't sang them out very often. And, it gets very emotional. As you probably, both of you fellow artists and these other artists that are with us tonight, oh man, we really need these outlets to express ourselves. I'm just so excited. I just want to say I'm really excited to be with Jackie and Betty. I love how you guys are mixing the different media, and it's interesting, as you were saying, Betty, like paintings have music, and I was thinking when you were reading your poem, Jackie, how life has such a rhythm to it, and it's one of the things that I'm really trying to finally get to, because most of my life has been compartmentalized between teaching and then a little bit of music on the side, and I try to bring it in a little bit, and you see the light in the crack, but most of the time, it just seems like two different worlds. So this is my attempt to this CD and this project to start to open this up a little more to the world. So this last song I'd like to do for you was inspired by my coworkers who have really been suffering, my fellow teachers, and at George Washington High School in particular, which is going through some tremendous upheaval in Washington Heights, which is like an epicenter of gentrification and a model for the country, with hundreds of millions of dollars being poured in by real estate developers, displacing, they lie about it all. So it started like that, and then it morphed because of a strike that happened in Hunts Point in the Bronx, where these warehouse workers who feed half of New York City the fruits and vegetables that get moved from the farms into the city, went on strike to try to eke out just a little bit more from these bosses that screw them every single day. So this song is called The Mighty, and it's trying to help us to understand how very powerful we really all are as a working class. So it's called The Mighty. Let's see if I can do this again. Let's see. our adventures over the years, over the centuries, and I mention it because now, in terms of survival, we need to rise from the dead again. We need a revival. We are the first and we are the last. We are the mighty working class. And when you feel the most like hiding, I wish you'd take a look inside yourself and see you have a history. We have our ancestors who made sacrifices on altars of misery, so we could stand here today and feel this song and swing to this beat. Our music so sweet, sing along. We are the first and we are the last. We are the mighty working class. And when you feel the most like hiding, I wish you'd know how good it feels to be fighting for what workers need. We should have no illusions that the people in power will accept revolution, but that is what we need. And the world's on our shoulders, and in turn we are learning from the giants that came before us. We are the first and we are the last. We are the mighty working class. And when you feel the most like hiding, I wish you'd know how much is riding on what we all do, what each of us do. We are mighty and we are fighting. We are the workers, we stand united, no more hiding. We're singing black, brown, and tan, woman, trans, and man, young and old, everyone. And we're singing black, brown, and tan, woman, trans, and man, young and old.
Wow, thank you so much, Fred
Wow, that was
Arcaleo, for an
great.
amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Fred, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate you and all of the artists tonight. You just really touched a deep part of my humanistic soul. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's very sweet.
And I'm going to give you a chance to relax for a minute. And then we're going to, Miguel, Barrios, and I are going to ask a question. And I want to start with Betty Lee first. Betty,
Yes.
you said one point that you made in your presentation. You said it all depends on who the art is for. Could you go, because that seems to me to be a very, very, very direct point in what humanism is about. We want to not only expose artists that we feel that are compelling, but we also want to share with the world. And there's a certain elitism about art, and I'm sure you're well aware of that. There's a certain elitism of art. So could you explain a little bit more about your point about making sure what you're doing your art for? Could you talk a little bit about that?
That's, a lot of people, and I see a lot of art that looks like other people's art. And I think someone once said, all that matters is the color of the sofa. People will buy a painting that'll go above the sofa. I mean, and I think that there is that in terms of art, but I think there are a lot of people who don't mind sharing their soul. As hard as that might be, but it connects to someone else's soul. And I think that has a lot to do with it. It has to be somebody who doesn't mind. And I don't mean horrific, but I mean who gets what's the song that's coming out of my paintings. I teach kids just I just neighbors' kids or whatever. I've gone into like schools and taught people's kids, and they are so free. They are just so free and they're so excited. And look at this paint and look at this color. I just never want to lose that for myself. We just
That-
can't be so cool and so chic and so making art as opposed to really expressing yourself.
That is so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your work with us.
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate your presentation tonight. Thank you, Miguel, for inviting Betty to our audience tonight. Miguel, do you have a question for any of our
Yes,
audience?
yes, I have a question for Jackie and for Fred. My question is about the power of words. What do you think the words? How is the power of the words in terms of healing people? How words can be healing our souls and our very difficult moments. Or how do you think the power of the words can do that for people? First with Jackie and then with Fred.
Well, thank you, Miguel, for your question. I guess I'll speak specifically about this piece that I wrote. I wanted to capture some images that I think maybe that's not everyone else's upbringing. And so I think a lot of times when I think of the 70s, I think of Father Knows Best or one of those shows. And there was another culture going on at that time. And one of the reasons that I wrote about so much music that was going on at that time is if you were in that particular era or your parents were, they knew immediately who I was talking about. So part of the work that I do is about just, I don't like the word normalizing, but letting people know that there are other cultures out there and getting, I think, people of color to appreciate their own culture. We were living a different life at that time, but we were still loving life. So and I'll just say the healing part for me when I wrote the piece was to understand who my father was as a young man, a very young man when he fathered me. And you don't come to terms with that, I think, until you become an adult and understand life in itself.
Oh, thank you, Jackie, for that very very touchy
Yeah,
words.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
That was
very touchy.
amazing. That was
Yeah,
very amazing. Wow.
yeah. Fred, what do you think of the power of words for healing?
Oh boy. Well, I guess I have two answers for you. First, I just want to say, Jackie, I loved the way you referred to music in your poem because it was so specific and it connected to what you were talking about in that moment. So, if you're familiar with these artists, quite a few of whom were not like the superstar artists. They were the people that you listen to when you listen to a lot of music and you would pick these songs out. And so that kind of goes along with the first answer that I would say to your question, Miguel. I teach poetry to my students for many years now, and there's this always people want to ask, what's the definition of poetry? And there's all these definitions in these books, and I try to get far away from all that. But what I try to distill in the discussions that we have when we talk about what is it, as compared to ordinary writing, is I mainly just call it special attention. If I have to boil it all down, poetry is special attention. Now, you could say all writing is special attention, which it is, but in poetry, maybe you might pay special attention to the words or to the sounds of the words or to the rhythm of how the words fit together in the rhythm of that line. And also the structure. Do you have shorter lines or longer lines? Is it divided into stanzas or is it all one and just like long piece? So like that kind of special attention to me speaks to that healing or awareness, consciousness, which is kind of my second definition. I have this poster that I've had for some years now. I found it and I thought it was really captured what I had been saying and drawing on the board. It's a poster of an iceberg, and you see it where you can see the underwater part as well as the above water part. And the title of it is called Hidden Depths. So it's kind of like a cheesy poster you get in a store, you know, at a drugstore or something, or in a whatever poster store. But to me, that is a revelation of what I want students to discover when they write. And my students are mostly what you might call non-writers, in the sense that they've only written what they've been told to write for their career. And I meet them in usually 11th or 12th grade when I teach this creative writing course. And as much as they've had all this school and they've written all these things, I have them write about what they choose to write about. And I find, like, the first semester, they don't know what to write about because they've never really explored what is interesting to them. They don't think that's allowed. Like, whatever's interesting to them is you don't write about, so according to what they've been taught all these years. So, like, a poem like you wrote, Jackie, which in a way is so ordinary, right? It's just ordinary life, but it reveals, like, this whole world, and it reveals a history, and it reveals your relationships with people. So that's what I've found my students discovering. And to me, that's what I think we need to discover on a world level in terms of political consciousness, to become aware of what we know inside. We live it every day. We live exploitation, we live racism, we live sexism. But what we're told about it in school and in the world is so false that we don't trust our own inside. So it kind of is like working from the inside out. So for me, the power of words is like discovering from the inside out, paying attention to those words and the rhythm and the sound and the feelings that are associated with them. And you have this revelation, and you are different from that. And even if it creates upheaval emotionally in you, that's on the road to some kind of healing, because now at least you're aware of who you are, where you come from, what you're feeling, which is so much what we don't get in this society. We get the opposite. So I hope that makes some sense.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. I'd just like to say this has been a very successful showcase. And to the production staff at When Humanists Attack, I really appreciate your hard work. Thank you to our special guests, Jackie Reason, to Betty Lee, to Fred Arcaleo, and that's Fred Arcaleo with the O. Fred Arcaleo with the O, thank you so much. And I just like to say, When Humanists Attack, we had a great time making the showcase for you. This is our first one, so we're walking in our journey to promote and support humanism and the people we feel that are compelling in the world. Feel free to comment on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and click the bell below. On this broadcast will be our Discord, our Twitter, our subreddit, our mail, and our email. And you can support us also on Patreon. I'd like to tell all of our people on Facebook Live and around the world, thank you so much for tuning in. Be healthy, be safe, keep loving, keep learning.
Don't forget to tell them about next time.
And being human is being funny. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you to everybody for showing up tonight. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
It's an honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was very special to see your art, to hear your words. Just a lovely evening. Thank you.
Was. When do we see it again?
Yeah, that's the question. When is the next art show? Miguel, Robert, when's the next art show?
It's in October.
The next art show will be the first Friday of every month.
Of October, yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to say it. They can't hear me.
Okay, so this is the first the next art show will be the first weekend of October, which is also my birthday weekend. I have to say that October 1st through October 3rd, and I will be down at the Patterson Poetry Festival, and I will tape the Patterson Poetry Festival as our next showcase. So please tune in to the Patterson Poetry Festival the weekend of my birthday, October 3rd, in Patterson, New Jersey. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We are the first and we are the last. We are the mighty working class. And when you feel the most like hiding, I wish you'd know how much is riding on what we all do.